So welcome to this 19th of September meeting of Te Puna Kōrero. Before we do our karakia, I'd just like to wish Taku Parai a happy birthday for yesterday. Welcome to the same decade as Mike and I. So it's a blessing, man. Come on. Absolutely. So without further ado, I'll ask you to lead us in the karakia then. Thank you. Whakataka te hau. Te akakura, te tio, te hauhu. Thank you very much, Taku. Now, for apologies, we have Councillor Nalo, and have we got? Yes, you're on screen. Thank you, Nathan. That's good. Right, I'll move the apology for Councillor Nalo. Thank you very much. Councillor Hayward, all those in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. We now have public forum. We have Ian McEwen. You've got 5 minutes, Ian. Come up. You've got to. Otherwise, we can't hear you. And turn your. Do you want to turn it on?
Got two brief items. Week to finish, or just?
We're time is an issue for us today. How about that one?
Great. How's that?
Yep.
Okay, no trouble. Right. Good morning. I'm sorry, Councillor. Friday night. On Tuesday.
Sorry, if someone is speaking, it's not coming through.
Is that on again?
Okay,
Move
Josh,
seats.
how's that?
Move seats. Be easier.
I think I can hear now.
You can hear now? Okay. Sorry, Josh. Right. I've just got back from a month's holiday over in the Sunshine Coast. Tuesday, I went for a regular walk to the bottom of Langwell Place through to Aotea Lagoon. Tuesday, I find four workers extensively planting a whole lot of plants on the grassed area between the base of Langwell Place out to Papakowhai Road. Made some inquiries, and apparently it is to be planted, a paved area put in, and seating, and I was told a statue. I spoke to the workers, and I've since spoken to somebody at the council and said, for over 40 years, this area, this grassed area, has been used extensively by children playing, and now that whole play area is just taken away. There's just been no consultation with the residents in the Langwell Place. Children have played there for years. Your play area has gone. Our cul-de-sac is on a slight hill. This is the only close grassed area, and this is gone. I understand from my inquiries that to cover the cost of this has been taken out of the cycleway project. So to me, under the cycleway project, planting, paving and bench seats is a fraudulent misappropriation of public funds. On this, I would like, please, to talk to somebody from your Parks and Reserves to have it looked at before the area is dug up and paved, so we can have a halt and have some meaningful dialogue. 43 years I've lived in that street. Numerous kids have played down there. Carried on with my walk down to Aotea Lagoon. What do I find? The rose gardens are no more. Big Pahuta Kawa tree gone. In the inquiries made, Aotea Lagoon is going to be extensively changed. There's going to be a sound shell put in there. The pergola, which was old and actually needed replacing, that's all going, the whole area, and I've been quoted a figure of up to 5 million to do everything. I was here a few months ago and spoke on the LTP. I thoroughly supported the LTP because we've got some big risks in front of us. I supported the 60% to be spent on the water. We have got leaks in our street which have still been going for 6 months, even though they've fixed some, it's still leaking. But to go ahead after all these submissions on the expenditure, and my rates are going up over $1,000, and then to see you've got spending on what I term luxury items as opposed to necessity items is just unbelievable. If you are to go ahead and develop AT Lagoon, you should have waited a few years until you got a good part of your water leaks and your infrastructure sorted and fixed, not to go ahead and smack your ratepayers in the face to say your increased rates are actually going to replace AT Lagoon, not the water leaks.
That's it.
And again, to talk to somebody from Parks and Reserves.
Questions? Thanks.
Can we reply to that, please? Because most of that information is incorrect, Ian, so we could reply to that.
I was going to say he's got 2 letters in,
Yep.
which we haven't replied. I mean, we can reply. I think we should reply to him verbally here, even though it's not
Yes.
a question. I'm happy for that to happen. So do you want to
Well,
start that?
Langwell, the space at Langwell.
Point of order. Public forum is used for members of the public to give their views, and that as members of this council, we are, or committee in this instance, we are able to ask questions of that person in the public forum for clarification.
But by way of
Answers may come from officers, however.
That's what I'm...
So rather than trying to becoming the spokesperson of operations.
I do understand that. I was going to ask Wendy to reply to him.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I do.
The work around Langwell Place is part of the shared pathway and has been fully funded by government. It can't be spent on other things, so that is a fully committed project. The Aotea Lagoon has gone through extensive consultation to get rid of it. It is the only project that the Parks team is doing this year. And it's 2.3 million, not 5 million. So most of those assets are well overdue for renewal. So that is why, even in this environment, we still have to maintain things that need maintaining. So that is why, and that gets very heavy use in Aotea Lagoon. So people are entitled to disagree with that, but it has gone through quite a long process.
So where and how is this consultation done? Because I'm an old fogey.
I think
I don't use Facebook.
Without prolonging the discussion here and going backwards and forwards, I think we can come back to you because you have written 2 letters to us, all right? Come back to you and specify when that consultation was done because it was done. Yeah, okay. So are there any other questions that councillors have? Thank you very much, Ian, for coming along.
Well, all I'm saying is your consultation is not hitting the mark. For some people, a wide amount of people.
You can never consult everyone.
You can try harder.
No.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, this moves us to conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest that people would like to declare? If not, we'll go on and I'll tell you, as we usually say, there are no items of extraordinary business. And that leads us to the confirmation of the minutes of Te Puna Kōrero of the 5th of September 2024. I'll move the minutes to get them on the table, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Are there any corrections, comments people wish to make? If not, All those in favour? Those against? Carried. That moves us to the substantive items on the agenda. First one is 7.1, which is the deliberations on public notifications of the Cannons Creek Park and Wetland and closures. Now, we have talked about this before in council. I'm going to move this report to get it on the table with an amendment, with the chair's recommendation, with the chair's recommendation that under 3, 5 and 6, it talks about recommendation 3. It is actually recommendation 2 to which that refers. So it's a pretty simple amendment, and thanks to Councillor Duncan, we've been... I'm not taking any... So that's my recommendation, that we move this report with those changes. Those 3 becomes 2 in items 3, 5 and 6. Understood? I move it to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ford. All right. Do people? We can. Are there any questions first? I'll ask for questions because we have been through this quite extensively before. So, yes, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. He nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa he kaikari me he kaumātua at rā whānau ki a koe. It's a very quick question because I agree this has been canvassed quite significantly. I just want to reconfirm with regards to the language that's in here, I can't remember the specific point, around safety improvements and lighting to the area around Bottomley Park. That commitment that was, as I understand it, made by Kāinga Order as part of their work, their contribution to the works, is still in place and they're still committed to doing that?
Good question.
Yeah, so I didn't work specifically on Bottomley Park, so the connection from Cannons Creek Park to Bottomley Park is more sort of linking the dots. From the design aspect, I could talk to it. I don't think it relates to the report, but yeah, I could discuss some of the design elements. We have decided that we don't want to light down to Bottomley Park because we don't want to draw people in during nighttime hours for safety reasons, because we know that Bottomley Park doesn't have a lot of overlook into it. But yeah, there's a lot of discussions and the detailed design for the connection down to Bottomley Park.
So sub to that. So it may help me if someone could prepare a report after this meeting to get clarity on what has been actually agreed to in terms of lighting into that area, and whether or not there were initial talks about additional lighting that has been subsequently changed.
So you're talking where specifically, Councillor Hayward?
Well, there are entry points that are being proposed to be added, as well as existing points around the park area. And if some councillors were present for the site visit hosted by Kāinga Order to go to Bottomley Park amongst other locations, and I asked the question around safety improvements in that area with regards to nighttime use of that space. And my understanding at that time was that Kāinga Order said, yes, that is something that we have taken from our side to make sure that that was to be a commitment was being made to have those lights installed. Now I'm hearing that's potentially not the case. I'd like some clarity after this meeting.
Understood. Yeah, understood. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. Are there any lizards there?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge. It's a sports field that's regularly mowed, and also the area for the wetland is all part of the Bottomley Park laydown area, so there's nothing there that we know of.
Great, thanks. My other
I was going to say, any other substantive questions?
On page 17, the financial implications council will be responsible for all associated costs with the operation. Have we any idea of what that's actually going to cost us in maintenance of that area?
I couldn't put a number on it, but we are, from an operational side, we are aware of the consequences, and through design, we're looking to try and reduce the maintenance burden on council as much as possible, but also understanding that by upgrading the park, you do have to do more maintenance.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. Yes, Councillor Ford.
I think I may have asked this when we went through and discussed this topic in particular around the new visitor infrastructure and the club rooms there. When I know it hasn't had an upgrade in quite some time. Is that covered in this project, or council, is it on council's radar to upgrade it in any time soon?
Yeah, so we have definitely discussed it for this project early on in the piece, and I think when we looked at the costings, it was just too expensive to do, and so we looked at, I think the roof was recently upgraded, but you'd have to talk to property to know specifically when that happened. But otherwise, there's no suggestion.
Yeah.
We're looking at it in the future. It's always an
So
option.
the Chief Executive will come back with that. Any other questions, Mayor Baker?
Similar to Jeff, I thought on our site visit, they were doing the lighting for the existing and the new, but it was stopping at the wetland. It wasn't going down to Bottomley Park because we don't light Bottomley Park ourselves. So I'm like you, I just want to check that because I don't think it was going past the wetland. So that was how I read it.
And I guess the issue with costs is, because I understand it's been talked about that some costs probably need to be reduced, whether lighting is part of that as well. What cost savings are in the project now as well? Do we know that?
No, but I know there has been extensive discussions around the septed issues around all of that upgrade. So I don't know the details of it, but I can come back to you on that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to prevent us from agreeing with this because it's slightly off topic. Yeah. Okay, any other questions by anybody? If not, I will...
Can I just make one minor correction?
Sure.
Sorry, through the chair. Point number 2 here, it says the grant of easement engrossed to Kāinga Ora. That should read to Kāinga Ora and Porirua City. So it doesn't change anything else in the report. And if you look at, I think it's paragraph 17, which refers to the easements, we just say, or 16, we just refer to easements generally. So it'll be for Kāinga Ora for the construction, but for us, PCC, for the ongoing maintenance. So it's just a very minor correction.
Okay, as long as we note that, I think we can still move those recommendations, or do we need to put it into the recommendations?
We need to put it into the recommendation.
Okay, so
With the agreement of the meeting.
yeah, I'll move the amendment that we add. Was it in 2?
You don't need to.
Okay, if the meeting agrees, so it becomes Kāinga Ora and Porirua City Council over Cannons Creek Park. Okay. All right, with the agreement of the meeting, and I'll move it with the recommendations. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thanks, guys. Right, that moves us to item 7.2, which is the proposed temporary road closure. I'll move the report to get it on the table, seconded by Councillor Hayward. Does anybody have any questions to this? It's reasonably straightforward. In terms of these road closures, yes, Councillor Ford.
Just a quick one on the Te Ahuru Mōwai event. It's happening in 2 weeks' time. So are comms ramping up now? I note that you said 5 days out from the event you'll be contacting people, but more so around those people who are going to be affected by the hard closures. I forget what the address is, 85 to 29.
Yeah, you have to go.
Through the chair, we can definitely tell comms to ramp up the. Do you mean internal comms or from Downer closing the road from the traffic management company?
Sort of both. So those addresses are going to be affected, obviously,
Yes.
a lot more than those outside of that.
Yeah.
So are they foretold, or that this is
Do
going
they
to
get
happen?
prior
We
notice?
we can get the traffic management company to give advance notice, and also I can ask comms to put it in maybe the residents association.
I'm not sure if that'll meet
Or-
them at the right, in time for
A letter drop possibly is the best option. We can do that more in advance.
social media.
When if this is passed today, we can, yes, and on social media as well.
Because residents will not have access when that's...
They won't.
Is that true?
Yes, it's true. In the hard closure, they won't have access,
Right.
so we'll have to ask them if they want to leave. They'll need to move their vehicles out of the closure
Right,
area.
so they need good prior notice of that,
yes, they do. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
from 9 to 3, so that's quite a significant
it is.
It
time
is.
in the day.
Yeah.
And then
Just
the other,
noting that. Yep.
sorry, and then the other question was just around the triathlon. Just because been involved in some of these sort of events, the setup, 6:30 you've got in the morning, is that, I mean, was that long enough for the triathlon? Did they need longer, or this is the time that they've requested?
This is the time that they've requested.
All good.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
It's actually a sub to the to Councillor Ford's question. The majority of those properties that are affected by the hard closure are Te Ahuru Mōwai properties, are they not? And Te Ahuru Mōwai is the host of the event. The expectation, I think, in terms of direct contact with the tenants of those households would probably mean that Te Ahuru Mōwai has already contacted and communicated with them. It may therefore be useful for officers to check with Te Ahuru Mōwai to the degree of comms that they have given with those households directly.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hayward. Yes, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, look, it's more a comment that Te Ahuru Mōwai needs to be commended for this. What a great initiative it is. It's a fantastic initiative and one that they've used before, I think.
Very good, very good. Yes, Councillor Weehapi.
Yeah, just going back to that, when Downer do, traffic management set it up, they usually do letterbox drop-offs. And as the road closure is actually a council issue, it's not a resident issue, then we would expect Downer to do those letterbox drops well in advance.
Fair point. All right, I'm now going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. That removes us to... Oh, it doesn't remove us, it moves us. You can remove yourself if you like, Councillor Hayward. But you're not. Yes, this is the Transport Bylaw, item 7.3. I'll move it to get it on the table. Thank you very much, Mayor Baker, for the seconding. This is, I guess this is reasonably self-explanatory as well. I note that there is, well, actually, are there any questions first before... Yes, Councillor Ford.
Sorry, thanks. The question was just around Mungavin Avenue and how you arrived at that. Earlier on in the year, I think it was last year, we had gone out to consultation around yellow lines around the bus stops that were happening, and we had buy-in from both Holy Family and Winley School, but in this instance, we have Holy Family almost, I suppose, a soft objection to what we're putting in. So was there no opportunity for us to work alongside those schools to find a workable solution with the yellow lines that are there, but also like removing the 3 car parks on one side and 1 on the other side? There's a bus stop that's also there that I would imagine is affecting the visual acuity for those who are leaving that particular driveway. So I wanted to know how you arrived where you arrived. Was that all I had for now? Yeah, that's all I have for now.
Good first point.
Through the chair, in terms of car park, there is, for the Holy Family School, there is in the opposite end as well, on the southern side, there is actually car parks, but also far beside the eastern side, there is a little bit of car parks as well. For this one, it is basically because of the crash, and also when we check the sight line is not meeting the normal safe intersection sight distance when someone moves out, and that's the necessity way we had to go through. I understand when the principal actually came back with a response saying 1 car park can be removed at either side, but it doesn't really meet the requirement, and it's just weighing out the balance in terms of safety, and it's just there are only these many car parks, and if we have to remove it, we got to remove it in terms of the sight distance requirements.
Can I just have a sub on that?
Yep.
Sub to that. So
And then you, Councillor Hayward.
So I'm curious, the bus stop that's there too, that stops beside those car parks, does that not affect the visual acuity as well for someone leaving? But also, and sorry, in addition, the church uses those car parks as well outside of school hours, but you're suggesting that there should be no stopping at all times, in which case the church, the parishioners wouldn't be able to use those car parks when it's not school time?
Through the chair. So in terms of bus stops, so while we have the 9-meter taper, that's for the bus stops to aid to go out. So, and that's the reason we have the bus stop is there to, that's That's actually done by the Greater Wellington Regional Council. So they have the bus stop there, and I think it's been gone through the bylaw in previous times, and they have the catchment for that to happen there. But removing the parking is mainly for the sight distance.
So, okay, well, let's move along. We might come back to that. I mean, Councillor Hayward, have you got a...
It's related to this particular part, and it is new questioning. So walk me through the process here. I acknowledge that in the report it does talk about the unfortunate incident involving a child at the event. Obviously, nobody around this table is, wanting to show a position that would want to put other kids in a similar situation at risk either. So when did the crash report come to the council's attention? Because it says in there that the issue was around the ability of the sight lines, the visual acuity, which is what I'm trying to get my head around. If that was the primary purpose of when engaging with the schools and other potential affected parties with regards to this change.
Through the chair, yes. So when the crash actually was notified, then we actually reacted based on it, and we checked for that particular driveway in terms of whether it meets the sight distance requirement, because the police stated that it doesn't meet the requirement. But we sort of checked it, and when we checked for the speed of 50 kilometer per hour, and because the road is 50 kilometer per hour on non-school times as well, it didn't meet the requirement. So, and that's the reason why when we modeled it, it stated these many distances required, and it sort of took 3 car parks on the western side and 1 car park on the eastern side.
So, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So just so I'm clear here, there's no confusion here. I don't want to have this idea in my head that the council approached affected parties with this proposed change. They came back and have suggested alternatives, and then council came back and says, well, hold on, more evidence has come to light that supports our position, and therefore we will reject the concerns of the community. Can you please just make sure that that is not the narrative that has happened in this instance?
I think in this instance, when we got the response, me actually checking in whether there is alternative car parks, and when I checked, although it is not in the right and frontage of the property that is in front of the school, when we checked the school boundaries and stuff, there are car parks within the car park boundary. I mean, within the school itself. So in terms of pickup and drop-offs, we encourage either far away from the school, and that's the sort of thing we encourage walking. And in terms of safety, in terms of crashes and when it actually comes there, so removing the car parks is the best idea, especially in terms of in the frontage of the property. So, and that's the reason we removed.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'm going to have some comment before I go to a vote later on, so I'll leave it at this point, allow us to ask questions and come back to it.
Sure. Councillor Weehapi.
Thank you. And just going back to Councillor Ford's point as well, with the Holy Family Church, there are also tangis that operate at that church very regularly, including during the day, so not just in the weekends. But obviously, the crash or the accident, did that happen before the pedestrian crossing was raised? Can you just remind me?
Yeah, I think so.
The crash happened after the pedestrian crossing was raised. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can we just check that?
Yeah.
Because I believe that with the pedestrian crossing raised, I just wanted to know if there was any other incidents since the 4th of February, if we're able to check that. Maybe
Yep.
Come back
I
then.
can check that.
Can I also ask, as a point of clarification, where the accident actually took place? So how does removing car parks fix that? The vehicle was coming out of the driveway, was it not? What's that got to do with car parks?
So
He would have had a clear line of sight of a child. Where was the child? On the road?
So they were actually trying to cross the road.
Where there's no crossing?
Yes. They didn't actually use the crossing. They tried to cross on the western side of the driveway, and that's the reason.
Sorry? So we're taking... Why are we taking car parks away for that reason then?
Because
Does that would that accident have been less likely to happen if no cars have been parked there. And were cars parked there at the time?
Bec-
Yeah. They used the crossing, then it wouldn't have taken place.
Through the chair. So if they actually use the crossing, then the likelihood of crashes is very less. But if they actually don't use the crossing and use a more desired line of using other than whatever is there in terms of crossing, then if the crash were to happen at 50 km/h speed, the likelihood of injury is very severe. And that's the reason when both vehicles on the road and also someone who's trying to cross have eye-to-eye contact, then that's the time where these
I don't
no
think
stopping
a
lines.
four-year-old's going to have eye-to-eye contact with a car coming. But anyway, sorry, that's just...
Are we able to pull? Are we able to pull this one until next time and perhaps go and have a look at it and discuss it more? We've got so many questions.
And get some more information because we're going to be here for...
Yeah.
Did you want to make a couple of other points, Councillor Hayward, before we...
I acknowledge the fact that potential to have that specific item, being left on the table for further analysis. My issue is around process. I don't think anybody around this table should be second guessing the officers in terms of making those determinations about assessing whether an accident would happen or not happen. That is not our role. Our role should be to make sure that the process is solid. My concern is that the way I read point 28, it says after consideration of the feedback received and a review of the road and traffic standard, 6 guidelines for visibility at driveways. It reads as though one came before the other, whereas actually the latter should have come before the former, because that way it would have been able to then give full information to those affected parties so that their feedback would be robust enough to be taken on board. I agree with the Mayor's suggestion. This is the way to proceed ahead of it, and that's the way I would advance it as well. Kia ora.
So with the agreement of the meeting, can we leave? I'll move. Sorry. Councillor Trilling.
Thank you, and sorry if this was addressed. There's been some issues with cutouts. I haven't heard everything that's been said about this discussion. My reading of the report, the key thing for me in this says that there is urgent need for improved visibility in the area. My concern is if we delay this and something else happens in that period of time, when the official advice we've received says there's an urgent need, that could potentially be an accident that we could avoid. So apologies if that question's already been asked, but is there a good reason why we should be delaying this decision?
Good question. Councillor Hayward.
Perhaps, with your indulgence, perhaps I may be able to give some clarity to Councillor Trilling's point. He's not wrong in saying that there is the risk to us at Council that an incident could happen in a similar situation. He's not wrong in that point. And my concerns are around process rather than challenging the assertions as to the decision-making process. Other councillors may have taken that line of work. And I think that's where the reason why to let it lie on the table was around trying to get greater clarity to the rationale behind the decisions being made by officers. But it doesn't defeat my point of view, which is that whether you let this lie on the table or not lie on the table, there is a process issue to be resolved here, not just for this one, but for any other instance where officers go to the community around proposed changes to the traffic bylaw.
Yes.
Councillor Hayward, is your question whether the 6 guidelines for visibility at driveways from NZTA was considered prior to going to, is that your question? Prior to going to consultation?
And whether that was actually also, in addition, not only that, but also that was communicated to the potentially affected parties as part of getting fulsome feedback from the community, so that when it comes back to us as councillors, we are satisfied to the level of prudence that we have had a robust process of engagement with the community.
Can you answer that, Gash?
Through the chair, yes, it was actually communicated in the consultation letter why we actually removed 4 car parks and 1 car park on either side to meet the site distance requirements. We didn't necessarily cite the RTS 6 guidelines to the public, but we actually showed a diagram of why it is being done, and also reasoning in a easy to understand manner.
In that case, it would seem that a robust process has been undertaken. Councillor Hayward, you would agree? Okay. So if that's the case, I don't think there is any reason for us not to make this decision. And I'm just looking around, councillors. Anybody else want to speak? No? All right. In that case, I'm going to move the motion. Oh, just before that, I just want to point out that you'll note here, I think it's item, where are we? Bylaw, under background, that a comprehensive parking plan's currently under development, because we've been approving these things. Car parks have been removed, and I think we need some context around this, and that will come to the table to councillors so that we're just not making these decisions, off the hoof.
So, hang about, mate.
Excuse me?
Sorry. Just some clarification then. So you proposing that we just go ahead with this, the no stopping at all times line, so parishioners who use Holy Family out of hours, out of school hours, will not be able to use those car parks. They won't be accessible to them during the weekends. Sunday Mass, that happens. Buses aren't always there all the time. But they won't be able to use that. And then, in addition to that, those yellow lines are only as good as our enforcement team, which...
Yeah.
But my first question does stand.
That's true.
Churchgoers that use that space, they won't be able to use it then in the weekends. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So is there no ability for council to be a little bit more, or have some movement around that, so that it's no stopping at all times during school hours, but during the weekend, outside those hours, that they can be used? I mean, we had a blue line inserted at Pub Kōwhai. Is there any way we can work with this community so that it's a bit easier for them as well?
We can have no stopping at certain times. That's again the consideration given for increasing the car parks. We can actually get back on that option as well. But in terms of actually seeing the broken yellow lines, and as far as the experience goes, the broken yellow lines actually work. In terms of signs, it's just not noticeable, and the form of compliance gets reduced by the people who are using it. So, So,
Mayor Baker, come
process question, because it was like a comment you made. So we're stamping these. When you did this, did you go to consultation to all of the community, or just people that are on there? Because my understanding is, going forward, when we want to do yellow lines somewhere, all the community get a go, not just the people that live in it. Could you tell me if that's true or not?
So for this process, the first lot of consultation happens with the immediate nearby residents. That is through the consultation letters, also on the have your say. Then after the TPK's approval, then the objection period is open to the whole Porirua city through the Kapimana newspaper, but also on our website, there is a public link which shows people can actually come back and object it. And if there is any objection, then the council officer will bring the report back with the objections back to the...
So is that a new process? Because that never happened before. Usually we stamped it here and it was done. Is that process now new? Because that is my understanding from Mike.
Yes, so this process is quite new based on understanding the Transport Bylaw 2021, and we've sought advice from Democratic Services in terms of mapping this process. And we've already done this in the last 1 or 2 reports, if I remember, and objection report is coming on 3rd of October on this.
Right, so whatever we decide anyway, it can be objected to, so someone can have another shot, which has never happened before. Thank you.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Ford? Or,
if you can answer, did the
blue line?
Yeah, the blue line. But also, did the parishioners of Holy Family engage in this process as well, or was it just Holy Family School and Winley School and surrounding residents?
When we actually consulted, it was all of the nearby residents. I can actually go back and check whether the church was also there in the consultation, but I'm very sure all the nearby residents were consulted, including the property owners.
And that's good, but Holy Family Church has parishioners who live outside that area who come to the church. So in which case, and yeah,
Typically, we use the church or a school as a proxy for those parents. So we won't be able to access every parishioner or every
no, but
pupil's family.
I'm imagining if you engaged with the church, that there would be something at church that was given. So
Yeah,
in terms of comms to their
the
parishioners.
minister or whoever.
That's up to them, but yeah.
I don't want to agonise over this too much. Councillor Weehappy, yeah.
So I'm tending to agree with Councillor Ford here that I'm actually quite happy with the process. That's not my issue. My issue is that this is going to directly affect people out of school hours when really the issue here is children when they're coming out of school. Now, they don't come out of school at all hours of the day. So I personally, I think that's a little bit more kōrero, or some answers need to be, done before we make the decision, but that's just me.
So what are you suggesting? That we let this lie on the table and officers come back and tell us how they would handle outside school hours? How would that be done with a blue line and a signpost, which is...
I'd like to see another option, and that they're working actively with that particular community, because it is high use. I mean, in terms of like the church as well as the school. The 4-year-old doesn't attend Holy Family, but obviously as a sibling. That's not to say, sorry, I just was saying that it's, I don't even know what I was saying there, but I guess the other thing is, what is the absolute deadline that you have to have these lines in by? What is the reality around that, the time frame?
The reality is, it just depends on the probability of another accident, So it's when the speed limit is not reduced there yet, and it's 50 kilometer per hour. And in terms of there is another child getting hit at 50 kilometer per hour, then as there is that sort of severities there.
So probably back to Deputy Mayor, her request to know how many accidents have happened there before and after the raised pedestrian crossing would be handy.
Yeah,
Sounds like there's only one.
Whether that data is available or not.
Yes, I can actually bring in the data.
So is this going to delay? How long is this going to delay this?
Well, it goes to consultation next, so how long's the consultation? So you're saying it goes out in the media?
It just goes out in the
Kapimana, so that's still
How long
another
do you give
month,
them?
isn't it?
So that's right after the council meeting. So that's after a week of today's TPK meeting. Once the council approves, then it goes in the Kapimana news saying that the council has approved, but if there is any objection, then it's open to the public.
Well, yeah, so that may happen. Yes, Councillor Philo.
Just a question around the speed with regards to the 50 k's an hour. When or is the 30 k's, or has that not been implemented yet around schools happening?
As far as my understanding, there is still plans going on in terms of funding, which we've received through. So I don't have a certain date, but I can get back on when it can be done. But it's actually a while away in terms of getting through all the schools and installing the 30 kilometer per hour speeds.
Because
it's a long time away.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the crossroads
So-
were put in first, and then the speed changes coming later.
Yes, later.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Trillon.
Yeah, can I suggest that, given the fact there's going to be a month-long consultation period anyway, and the fact that this report does say that there is urgent action needed here, that potentially the best way forward is for us to vote through the motion as it currently sits on the table, but request that when this goes out for consultation, if we're able to have someone specifically contact Holy Family and raise the concerns that have been raised by councillors around the table today, give them the opportunity to then specifically provide feedback on those through consultation, and we can make any changes based on that consultation process. My concern is that if we leave this lie on the table now, that delays it out, probably another month, and then it has to go through that consultation process anyway. That pushes it out further, delaying action, which has been flagged by officers as being urgent. So that would be my preference.
I would tend to agree with you, Josh. I was going to suggest the same thing. So I think that's quite an elegant solution, and make sure officers that Holy Family School are contacted, or the church. I thought the church and the school are associated, aren't they? Yeah, they're different, but they do talk. Okay, the church specifically, and I think the school at the same time, again, so that they both know what's happening. Okay,
That's right. Yeah.
all right. So in that case, with that note, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. I'll note we'll have our karakia at the end of the workshop, because this brings us to the end of the TPK meeting, and I'll declare it closed at 9:15 a.m. Thank you, everyone.